How's it going, everyone? We are going to, in this video, start working on trying to transfer a blueprint onto SketchUp, which is something that you will be doing with your dorm room number 4 and also on your performance test. So for this one that we're going to do together in class, we're going to be going through transferring dorm room number 2, which is the one that you see on the screen right here that you have already created a blueprint for, onto SketchUp. And so to do that, what we're going to do first is make sure you go to SketchUp. Remember, it's edu.sketchup.com/app. And with that, there's also a link on Google Classroom for you to use. Once you get here, you're going to click this little arrow, the little drop-down arrow, and you want to make sure it says architectural feet and inches because we are doing architecture. Once you click that, it'll actually open up a brand new file for you, and you won't even have to click create new because it creates a brand new file for you in that architectural feet and inches format. With this tutorial, I'm going to kind of go through this a little bit quickly. So as you are going, if you need to pause, please make sure you pause and watch, complete some steps as you're going, so that way you don't get too far behind in the video, and that way you're able to complete everything and you kind of know what you're doing. So with this, the first thing that we always do is make sure we save. So I'm going to go ahead and click Untitled up at the top. I'm going to click my drive, and then I'm just going to title this one Dorm Room Number 2. And then we'll click Save here. And so with this one, what we're going to do is a couple things. Is we're always, just like we do with our blueprints, we're always going to start by drawing the outside of our dorm room first. Like with this dorm room, we're only looking at one room. When we get to a house, we're going to be looking at like one singular room at a time. And so since this is all just one room, we're going to be kind of focusing on creating this blueprint or this SketchUp model, starting with the outside walls, these very, very outside ones. If you remember on this, it was 12 feet and 1 inch across and 19 feet and 8 inches up and down. Okay, and so when we do that, you're going to kind of go into SketchUp here, and we're going to start with doing a rectangle. And when you do your rectangle, I'm going to start down here and kind of hover over my origin, and I'm going to extend out. And now remember, when you extend out, it doesn't exactly matter how far you go because we're going to end up typing in our size here in just a second. So with this one, we said that we are going 12 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 12 apostrophe 1 inch, which is a double apostrophe, comma 19 feet 8 inches. And then you go ahead and click enter. And now you have created a 12 foot 1 inch by 19 feet 8 inches dorm room. And so that is, like I said, focusing on the outside of our walls here. And so if you remember when we did this on our blueprint, the next thing that we always had to do was we had to go into creating the thickness of our walls. And so we had to make a thickness on the outside, just like we did when we were drawing our blueprints. And so to do that, I'm going to use my offset tool. Now your offset tool is going to be within this little button here. And if it's the very, very bottom one. And if you remember the shortcuts in SketchUp, and so you can just click F as well, and it should bring you to your offset tool. And so for your offset tool, remember we always draw our walls on the outside. And so I'm going to extend this out to the outside. And then as soon as I extend it out, I'm going to let go. And I'm going to type in 6 inches. Because remember, my walls are 6 inches. And then I'm going to click enter. And so what you have now done is you have taken your dorm room and you have, this is like the inside of your room, and now you've added in the thickness of your walls. And so what we'll end up doing later on with this is we'll be able to kind of raise our walls up, and that will be our dorm room in on the inside. But we're going to save that for now, and we'll do a couple more things first before we raise our walls. And so one thing I want to note is don't delete the person here, because the person is going to be something that we use to help reference, make sure our sizing makes sense. But now that we've kind of laid out our dorm room, these green and red and blue lines, the axes here, can kind of get a little bit in the way of what you're looking at. And so what I like to do with these is if you click the little glasses over here on the right that says display, you can always turn these off and back on. And so if you ever need them back, you can always put them back. But I like to turn them off just because I already have set it up on the origin and it's going to be set up on my different axes already. But that gives me a little bit more viewing area here that's not kind of obstructed by those lines. And so with that then, we have now created, like I said, the outside of our dorm room. And so what we do next is once you've created your outside walls, you're going to start going into creating any of your other walls. And so with that, kind of similar to what we did on our um, blueprint when we drew this, is that we kind of went in and drew all these other walls. And I'm going to start down here with my closet. The reason I start with my closet is I know that this wall is 4 feet away and I know it's 3 feet long. And so what we do in SketchUp is we're going to use the measuring tape tool, okay, or the tape measure, which is the shortcut is T for it. And a couple things with this, in case you haven't used it, is if you ever are using the measuring tool, you can always just click on a line and drag, and it'll kind of bring you a line that goes in the direction that you kind of pull it. And you can use this to measure how far away you're going. And like we said, we wanted to go 4 feet away. So once I'm on my green axis here, I'm going to go ahead and type in 4 feet and click enter. And that gives me a line that is 4 feet away from the line that I pulled from. Okay, which is perfect because this wall starts 4 feet away. Now, the other thing that we know is that it goes out 3 feet. And so what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to pull this way on my right axis 3 feet. And then there's a couple things you can do here. You could just start drawing in your rectangle. The other thing you can do is I can actually pull, because I know what I basically done is I've drawn in the bottom of this wall and the side. I'm gonna kind of go ahead and just draw on the top as well with these little measuring tape tools, which we know is 6 inches away from here. So I'm just gonna pull from a measuring tape here, or my measuring line on the green axis, 6 inches. Go ahead and type in 6 inches. And now this little section here is going to be my wall. And so what I can do with this is I can just go ahead, and there's a couple ways. You could just take your line tool and you can just go and click on all of the intersections. And once you've done that, you can just click escape to get out of that. And then you have now created your wall. Another option is you could use the rectangle tool and just kind of connect from rectangle to rectangle. So let me show you that real quick. Let me undo. I'm just going to do the rectangle. If I just click here and drag up to this other intersection, that is another way of doing it. Either way is perfectly fine. But now that I've gotten that, that is my first closet wall. And so I'm going to go ahead and try to add in my next closet wall, which we know is 4 feet away. And you notice I left my little measuring lines here because I'm going to kind of pull away from those. And so with this, I'm just going to pull away from this top measuring wall that we know is 4 feet away. So I'm going to pull up on that green axis and type in 4 feet. I already have my 3 foot line because I left it there from before. And then we got to add in our 6 inch thickness. So I'm going to pull this up on the green axis 6 inches more. Oops, 6 inches. And then just like the last one, I'm going to use my rectangle tool. Makes it a little bit easier sometimes, and drag to the intersections. And what you've done is now you've created both of the walls for your closets. And so with this, what I know, if you remember, is that this wall was directly across the wall I'm looking at right here is the top of my bathroom, is directly across from my top closet wall. And we know it's 3 feet and 3 inches away. So with the lines that I already have, I'm just going to use my tape measure tool again. And I'm going to pull this one over 3 feet, 3 inches. And you just type that 3'3" and then the quotation marks for inches. Remember, you cannot just click the apostrophe twice. It does not work like that. And now you have a 3 foot and 3 inch gap, which we know, if you look back here, connects all the way to that wall. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and draw my rectangle all the way down to this corner. And now you already have this wall. Okay. And so remember, I'm not going to focus on door or worry about doors or windows, anything like that. I'm just going to make solid walls. So if I look here, I have a 3 foot and 1 inch gap away. Okay. And I'm going to have a vertical line or vertical wall 3 feet and 1 inches away. And so with this one, I actually have a lot of lines on here and I don't really need them anymore because I'm going to be focusing on a different measuring wall. So I'm going to use my eraser tool. And I'm just going to kind of click over these and erase them. And you can kind of see what we've created now. But I'm going to go back to my measuring tool and I'm going to go over 3 feet, 1 inch. And that dotted line is representative of the inside of my bathroom. And we know we need to go over 6 more inches. So I'm going to go over 6 inches. And I can go ahead and fill that in because the wall, remember, connects up to here and it connects all the way down to the bottom. And so when I do this, I'm just going to go ahead and take my rectangle tool again, go to my intersection, and I'm going to erase these out. What you have done is you have now created all of the walls that are in your dorm room. Okay. And so with that, like I said, I'm not worrying about the doors, not worrying about the windows yet. We'll worry about that in a little bit. But one thing I need to do before I do anything else is, if you notice, all of these walls should be connected. Okay. And so what I kind of have in here is, from when I drew my lines, I have these little extra lines sometimes. And we want to get rid of those. And so I'm just going to take my little eraser tool and kind of click over them. And it should only erase the little tiny lines that we maybe have some places. And so with that, what we get is all of the walls connected. And the reason why that's important is because what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my push-pull tool, and you can use the letter P if you want to, but you can raise all of your walls at the same time now, okay? If you did not, let me go back here. If you did not erase all those little lines, when you tried to push-pull, it would only push-pull one of the little parts. But since I went through and I erased all these little lines, it pulls all of them at the exact same time, which is what we want. And so generally, in a room, your walls are about 8 to 10 feet tall. It kind of varies based on the architecture of your building. For the sake of this one, let's just go ahead and say that the walls are about, we'll go 10 feet for this one. So I'm going to go ahead and push pull. And when I push pull, I'm going to type in my 10 feet. And so with this, what you have now gotten is the layout of your dorm room. And so what we're going to do with this is we're going to go ahead and start adding in some features to it that we need to include as well with our dorm room, like those doors, those windows, and the furniture and stuff like that. And so if I look back here, it doesn't really give us much information about the colors of things. And so with this, it's kind of up to you on what you want to do. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and add in my windows and my doors. And so with this, if I look here, let me kind of zoom in here a little bit here. Actually, that didn't really zoom very well. Let me zoom out actually a little bit so that way we can kind of see a couple more things. We know that this doorway is directly below these closet walls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and this wall here was 3 feet. So I'm going to kind of go to this front view of my dorm room here. I'm going to go back to my measuring tool, and I'm going to go and drag this over 3 feet. Okay. And so that is representative of the, actually, that's incorrect because I forgot. We already have a 6-inch gap here. So technically, if I kind of looked at this, the reason I kind of caught this is I didn't line up perfectly. I was dragging it from out here, and we drew, this was 3 feet from the inside wall. And so technically, we actually need to bring that over 3 feet and 6 inches. So I'm going to drag that over 3 feet and 6 inches. And now that looks like it lines up a little bit better, which is where we want it. My door is 2 feet and 11 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag this over 2 feet, 11 inches. 2 feet, 11 inches. And then I need a height for my door. And so I'm going to go ahead and make my door, let's go with 8 feet tall. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag this up from the bottom. And I'm going to make it 8 feet. Okay. And now you kind of have a layout for where your door is going to go. And so just like I did before with my walls, I'm going to take my rectangle tool, go from intersection to intersection. And I no longer need all these little lines. And so I'm going to erase those out. And now you have a door. Okay, now we need to be able to go into our door though. So what we're going to do is use our push-pull tool. And this may be something you remember from like the pirate ship tutorial on SketchUp. But what you can do is if you push on the door on this side and drag it back, you got to tell it where you're dragging it back to. And I want to drag it back to the back side of this wall. So what I want to do is I want to find a spot on that back wall where I get a little box. You kind of see it's a little bit red. It says on edge. And if you let go on that point, it should get rid of the little spot for where your door was. Okay, so now I have a doorway into my dorm room. And so the next doorway that I'm going to need is I need my bathroom door. And so this bathroom door is a little bit more tricky. One thing that I think we did when we were working on our blueprint is that we were saying that this doorway was directly across from my closet wall on the top here. And so a couple things you can do here. I'm going to take my measuring tool. Um, it gets a little bit trickier when you're kind of on the top like this and trying to figure this out. But what we do know is that if I think about it, that this top part of my door would have to be 4 feet away from the inside, plus that little 6 inches. So that's 4 feet 6 inches. But since on this one, we are already on the inside, I don't need to account for that extra 6 inches like I did before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull I get my tape measure 4 feet and 6 inches away from this interior wall here. So I'm going to go ahead and do 4 feet, 4 feet, 6 inches. And hopefully that should look like we're kind of lined up with that wall, which it does. Okay. And so what I'm going to do next then is I have a 2 foot and 7 inch gap here. I'm going to pull from this wall or this dotted line over 2 feet, 7 inches. And then you kind of got to get your views right. So remember, if you hold shift and push it on your middle key of your mouse, it allows you to kind of rotate around a couple things here. I'm going to go ahead and raise this up 8 feet like I did before for my doorway on the front door. And I'm going to go ahead and make my rectangle. And with this then, I'm going to erase my lines. One other tool that you can use if you ever need to, if you have a lot of lines that you want to get rid of, instead of trying to erase them all individually, if you click the display icon over here, you can click delete all guides and all of your little measuring tools will go away. It's a little trick in case you have a bunch of them. Now we have the door. Now we may need to make it a doorway. So I'm going to use the push-pull tool. I'm going to go ahead and push-pull through to the back side until I get a little red square that says on edge. And now I have my bathroom. And so with this one, there's a little line here. If you want to erase it, you definitely can. That way it's kind of a smooth transition there. One other thing I noticed that we don't really have any flooring here, so I'm going to go ahead and add in a little rectangle. I'm just going to connect from corner to corner. And that adds my door back in, but you can always just click the door and then delete it, and click the door and delete it. And that way you have that little part of your floor. Now it's a different color because it was the bottom of that door it was adding. So you can always right click on it. And I think there's a way to, if you click reverse faces, that gives you the white color back. And then I'm going to go ahead and erase out. Now this is an extra step. If you don't want to do this, don't feel like you have to. It just kind of gets my extra little part in there. So that way it's all have flooring underneath my door. So what I have is my front door, my bathroom door. I have my closets. I have my bedroom. But one thing I'm missing out of my bedroom is my window. And so for my window, we were just estimating that it was about halfway inside of our beds here. And I think what we did on our blueprint is we said it was just 3 feet wide. And so with this, we got to try to figure out where we're going to go here. And so I think what we'll do, just to make it a little bit easier here, is maybe like this a little bit bigger. We'll just say that the bed, remember, was 3 feet. We'll say there's about a foot left over on the side. So I'm just going to move a line over 4 feet. So I'm going to take my measuring tool. I'm going to go over 4 feet. And I'm going to go over 4 feet from this side as well. And our window will be a little bit bigger than we might have put it in our blueprint. But it's going to be a little bit easier to just kind of get the concept of this one down. And so one thing that we got to do a little bit differently on this one is we don't really know the size of our window. And so we're to kind of just make a educated guess on the size of it. And so I think it would probably make sense that we'll move our window up about 3 feet. And you want to make sure you're on the blue axis. I'm going to go up 3 feet. And then the height of my window, so I'm up 3 feet. I have 7 feet to the ceiling. I don't want to go all the way to the ceiling. So maybe I go up like, maybe go up like 4 more feet. Maybe I'll go up 5. Let's go up 5 feet. So 5 feet. And now I have a spot for my window. And I'm going to go ahead and use my rectangle tool. Draw my window. I'm going to erase my guides. And then just like the other ones, I'm going to push pull to get rid of my window. Make sure it says on edge on the back side of the wall. And now you have a window. And so now we have like all of the parts to our dorm room. And so what we're missing now is basically some paint and some furniture. And so sometimes I find it easier to add in your paint before you add in your furniture, just for the sake of being able to see what you're coloring. So if you remember, if you go over to your materials icon over here, you can always go ahead and click the little search icon, which will give you a whole bunch of different options here. And so if I scroll down, um, I don't know, like looks like it has carpet down here. You can use carpet, you can use whatever you want. Um, there's not really a set thing for this one. And so let's see. I might go ahead and let's do some synthetic surfaces. Looks like I have a gray kind of color here, which matches up with what's kind of on here. So I'm going to use this one. You can use a different one. I'm just going to click my flooring. Now, with that, the only problem that created was my bathroom has a different color. So what I'm going to do is actually, it's going to be helpful to add in that line back again. So I'm going to go ahead and draw in a line that I actually erased earlier. And this will kind of separate out my bathroom. Now, if you get that door back, just make sure you click it and delete it. SketchUp's just inferring that you wanted to fill that in. But now this kind of separates out my bathroom. And it looks like I maybe have tile in my bathroom. Or I would assume that I would maybe have like a tile. So I believe there is a tile icon. There is. I'm just going to use this top one. And this should allow us to color that a different color. And so now I have my gray flooring and my tile in my bathroom. And so with that, then I'm going to add some colors to my walls. You can decide whatever colors you want. It could even be something from a category that maybe you just would like to color for. I'm going to go into, let's see, the colors here. And for the sake of mine, I already have a gray flooring, so maybe I make it like a light gray wall color in here, or you could even do you can do whatever color you want, like I said. I think for mine, though, just for the sake of this one, to show you that I'm coloring it a little bit different, I'm just going to go ahead and make a. Let me find one that I like. No, we don't want any of the landscaping. Sorry, I'm kind of doing this as we're going here, so I don't have a set color that I want to use. Let's go with. Yeah, I'm gonna go with this color. That way it gives me a little bit of color here. And I'm gonna go ahead and color my walls. Like I said, you decide whatever color you want. You could have these all be different colors. For the sake of the video, I'm just gonna go ahead and color them all the same, with maybe the exception of my bathroom, just because my bathroom has different color flooring. And so make sure you rotate around, make sure you color everything. Normally, when we do this, we will also kind of focus on adding in a roof um, as well. And so you don't have to worry about the tops here, but you definitely can add a color to your tops if you'd like. For my bathroom, I might use a little bit of a different color here, so that way it separates it out a little bit. But you kind of want to make sure that you go ahead and color all of your different pieces, so that way you're not leaving anything out. Um, on mine, I'm going to go ahead and color in the doorway areas too, um, just so I get everything. Like I said, you decide how you want to do it. But I think I now have everything colored, at the exception of my little window here. And then the outside, now this is a dorm room, so you'd probably have more dorm rooms connecting. But just for the sake of practicing, I'm gonna go ahead and color the outside and maybe use like a brick or something. Let me see if I find a brick. Yep, I got some brick up here, some siding. So it's this one. Like I said, normally there'd be a lot more around here. I'm just gonna use a brick on the outside, but that way we kind of have a room, and we're kind of tying this into maybe our house that we're making. It looks like I missed one slide there. What color did I color that one? Synthetic surfaces. And I did this one, I believe. All right, so I'm gonna look around, make sure I have everything colored. Don't worry about the bottom. On the bottom, you'll kind of see that you have stuff left over. That's fine. Don't worry about the bottom. But now I have everything colored. Okay, and so what you're gonna start to do is you're gonna start to add in different furniture. And so the furniture I add in should kind of match up with what I have. And now you could try to make these different things. There will definitely be times that I have you make the different pieces, but for the sake of this, I'm just gonna kind of use my um, component gallery here. Um, and so if you click the little component icon, it's these three little squares up here. You can always search for components. And so with this, I'm actually going to go ahead and close this one out. The components, you can use this little icon up here to search the 3D warehouse. Now I'm going to warn you with this one, this is where your computer can get a little laggy. And so you want to make sure you're finding ones that are pretty small in size. And so like, let's see, I'm going to start with, I need 2 beds. So if I look up a bed, when you look up a bed, you can see all these little numbers that pop up. Like this one, 4.1 megabytes, that's going to really, really lag your computer. So you want to find some that are really, really tiny in size. And so ideally, you want to find one that's like, I mean, like this one, 0.058, that's fantastic because that's really, really tiny. Um, you want to find one that's a small size but kind of meets your need. And I feel like this one, just because we're trying to practice this meets the need of what I'm going to want to kind of put in here. And so I'm just going to click on that. It'll take a second to download, and you'll notice that I have a bed, but my bed is the size of my entire dorm room. And so remember, when you get something that's really too big, you can always click the S tool to size. So if I just click the S for sizing, and I'm going to go ahead and drag down my bed to kind of make it a little bit smaller in size. And so one thing that we can do with this, though, is we know that we were making our beds 3 feet by 7 feet. And so what I'm going to do to kind of take this a step farther and make it the correct size, I'm going to use my measuring tool, and I'm going to go over 3 feet, and I'm going to go down 7 feet. I'm going to go over 3 feet on this side. And what you can do then is you can take your move tool. So I clicked M, and I'm actually going to click down here all the way on this bottom corner. And the reason for that is then I can take it and it's like linked to that. And I'm going to link it to my endpoint down here. And so when I do that, you can now take your sizing tool, and that's connected all the way into the corner of your room. I'm going to take my sizing tool, and I'm going to try to make this the same size as what I'm required to. And so that is now a 3 foot by 7 foot bed that meets what we were kind of wanting. So that'll just give us a bed that kind of lines up. I'm just going to click on it, click Control C, Control V, and it should make a copy. And I'm just going to connect it to the intersection point down there. And you now have 2 beds that are in your room. And so I'm going to go ahead and delete out my guides. Because what we have next now is we have 2 desks with chairs. So I'm going to look up on my component gallery here, a desk. Let's see if I can find one that maybe, if it doesn't have a chair, don't freak out, don't worry about it. We'll see what we can find. Like I said, I haven't really found one that I necessarily want to use. Like this one looks really cool. 18 megabytes though, your computer is not going to be lagging. Your computer's going to be lagging really, really bad if you try to use something that large. Let's see. I'm looking for something kind of small. This 1 megabyte, this is kind of pushing our size, but I think I'm going to use this one for now just because that'll be something that has the chair already included. And on this one, you notice that it's rotated. And so what we have to do, remember, if you're on the move tool, this little 4 arrow one, if you're not there, you click M. If you hover over, you get these little red pluses. And if you hover over one of the pluses, you get a little rotate. And I'm going to rotate it around. Oops, I think I rotated a little bit too far. Yep. Make sure it goes on the green. And with this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my corner and drag it over here. And I kind of got it, it's a little bit tricky here because you want to get the right view. And so I'm going to go ahead and drag this because I'm trying to connect it down to the corner over here. And it looks like I did. And with this, then you now have a desk. It actually fits pretty well. I might need to bring it in just a tiny bit. So I'm going to use my S tool to size. And I'm going to bring it in just a tiny bit so it connects with the edge of my bed, fits in my little area there. I'm going to go ahead then and click my move tool, or my select tool, sorry. And I'm going to do Control C, Control V. The second one, I'm going to go ahead and rotate it, just like I did for the other one. I'm going to rotate it all the way around. And I get my view somewhere I can actually move something to. So I'm going to click on the little bottom here, and I'm going to connect it into that corner. And so now what you have is you have your bedroom complete. And so I have my 2 beds, I have my 2 desks, and the chairs as well. And so what we have next then is we have 2 little dressers. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to search for a dresser. I just want something kind of simple here. This one's pretty small, or actually this one's really small. We'll use this one. This one's pretty simple. And so with this one, it looks pretty good in size, but a couple things. One, it's backwards, so we want to rotate it around. And if you're not finding the same ones as me, that's perfectly fine. I'm just kind of using some so that way it allows me to kind of show you the general concept. So if you're finding different ones, that's great. Now, one thing that I will say is that it is up against the wall. We kind of estimated there was about 6-inch gap on each side, so it kind of had a little bit of room here. So I'm going to go ahead and take my measuring tool, and I'm going to go down 6 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and go up 6 inches from this wall. And then when I go to my move tool, I'm going to go ahead and click on it, go to the corner, and connect it down to my intersection. And then you can use your S tool to size. And so I know that I want to bring it all the way over to here. And I think that looks fairly good. Let's look at it from the top. It looks like I might need to bring it over a little bit because it doesn't take up very much room on here, and it takes up most of it here. So I need to bring it forward a little bit as well. So I'm going to bring it this way. And I now have my dresser. And so with this one, I'm going to use my measuring tape again and go down 6 inches. So I can make my second one 6 inches. And I'm going to go over 6 inches. And I can click my select tool, Control C, Control V to move it. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my intersector, my bottom corner here, and connect it into my intersection. And I can now delete my guides, select off of that, and I now have what you'll see as my dressers done. And so I was assuming that they would probably have like a bar up at top. Don't worry about that. We're just going to kind of include what we know we have. Next thing that we know we have is that we have a little sink sitting out here. So if I look up here, I'm going to try to find a sink real fast. This one is something that probably just going to be standing by itself. And so this one might be a little bit trickier to find what we're looking for. Oh, maybe something like this. This works for our purposes. We don't know the size of this one, but we know that it's not that big. So I'm going to go ahead and size this down. I'm going to even size it smaller than that. And I know it was oval in the picture, and this one's a different shape, and that's just okay. You're not going to be able to find everything without creating it on your own. And so if you want to create some of these on your own, feel free to, but you do not have to. And we, like I said, we don't know exactly where this one's at. We know that it does not go all the way to this wall, though, and we know that it does not go out this far. So I'm going to size it just a tiny bit smaller, have it more of a rectangle for the sake of what I'm doing. Yeah, and that gives a little bit of room on the left. Looks like I have a little bit of room on the left, a little bit of room on the right. I think that's a pretty good location for that. And the next thing I'm going to do is add in a toilet. And I have a fairly small one here. I'm going to go ahead and take this one. And I need to rotate it. And, oops, I didn't rotate that correctly. I'm going to go ahead and rotate it. And we don't know the exact size of this one either. We just kind of know where it's at. So I'm just going to make sure it connects to where I want it to. It's kind of in the middle there, or close to the middle. Let me maybe move it down just a tiny bit here. And that's kind of where we want that. And then we have a shower. So let's see if I can maybe find a shower here. So I can look up and see what we find. This one's pretty small. We'll use this one for the sake of what we're doing. I'm assuming that it's a little bit big, which is fine. But one thing that we do know is that we were kind of assuming that this was a 3x3 shower. So I'm going to go ahead and take my measuring tool. And actually, we're over 3 feet and 1 inch. So I'm going to go down 3 feet, 1 inch. And then I'm going to try to fit my shower into that little area there. So I'm going to size it. And we can worry about the height later. I just want to make sure it fits into my bathroom first. I'm going to move it. And click into the corner, click on the end point. And so now I have a little bit of a small shower, so I need to resize here. And so I want to make sure I drag it all the way to this corner, or this edge here. And I want to drag it all the way to this edge over here, where my little line was. And sometimes it's easier to do than, or say than do. And now it's way too short. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring it all the way up to my roof here. And it maybe look a little oblong, that's okay. We're just kind of trying to get the concepts of this down. So now I have my shower in. I have my toilet. I have my dressers, I have my desk, I have my sink, I have my beds. The last thing that we kind of need is obviously a window. What I'm going to do for a window is I'm going to take my little rectangle tool actually, and I'm going to take this, I'm going to connect it from corner to corner. It's going to put a little white spot here, but I can go into my materials, and one of these should say glass. Let's see here. Yes, glass and mirrors. I'm just going to use this one. That makes it clear. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So that way my window takes up my entire area here. I'm going to take another little rectangle. And I'm going to go ahead and connect it down to the corner. I'm going to color it. And now I have a window for my room. Now the only other thing that we need is doors. You can find a door from the component library if you want to. Let's see what I can find. Door. I can find something small. This one seems pretty simple. Let's see what this one looks like. You can always delete these if you find one you don't like. Yeah, I don't really like that one. Let's see. I got a door here that's pretty small, so let's look at this one. Yeah, and I like that one. It kind of has like a cool little side or design to it. I'm going to go ahead and click on this one. And the only problem with this one is a little bit wonky just because of it has like the whole door frame and everything like that, and that's all right. As long as we're getting the general idea here, that's what I'm looking for on this one. So I need to size it. Make sure your sizing makes sense for what you're trying to do. And it's not perfect, but that gets my general idea there. I'm just going to go ahead and Control C that, and Control V, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees so I have one for my bathroom as well. And so with that, let me actually bring this back just a tiny bit here. So with that then, if I click off of that, I delete my guides. I should now have a bathroom and all these other things. The only thing I kind of made a mistake of is that it actually opens on the inside. If you look at the size of it, that's kind of how the door was. I could rotate it 90 degrees, but for the sake of this, I think we have everything that we need. We have now created a dorm room for dorm room number 2. This is kind of what you'll do on dorm room number 4. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you need to pause and spot that video, please do. Have a wonderful day. Good job on what you have created.